This is CNC World, a new perspective.
Hello and welcome to Lifestyles on CNC World. I'm Clark Cahill in Beijing. It's been said that education has no boundaries. More and more Chinese students are on the path of seeking what they believe is the best route of education, and many are deciding to find it outside of the country. This has resulted in a surging number of Chinese students applying for foreign universities, and those in the United States are among their favorites. Lifestyles travels to Los Angeles and New York to find out how this trend affects the country in more ways than one.
According to the annual report on the development of China's study abroad program, a total number of 1.91 million Chinese students studied abroad from 2000 to 2011. 32.1% of them were in America, 27.9% in Europe, and 25.2% in Asia. With world-leading universities and diverse cultures, the United States enjoys overwhelming popularity among Chinese students. According to the U.S. Institute of International Education, international enrollment in U.S. universities has soared in recent years to nearly 725,000. Nearly 300,000 of them are graduate students. China sends most students to the U.S. While applications from China keep piling up, U.S. universities are happy to keep their doors wide open. Last November, an estimated 158,000 Chinese students were enrolled in U.S. schools, or about 22% of the overall international student population, the largest international contingent on American campuses. This is exactly the case when it comes to the University of Southern California, where Chinese faces are easily spotted in any corner. Located in a state that hosts the largest number of foreign students, USC has been the favorite choice of foreign students for the past decade. Among its more than 8,600 foreign students, Chinese account for the biggest proportion.
I think there are less restrictions and prohibitions for here. It means you will be able to develop yourself fully, explore a wider variety of options, and find something you are really passionate about. While in China, you may have one or more certain options. There's very few opportunities to develop on a full scale. I personally believe that the education here will bring me more and better opportunities.
所以可能就是我个人觉得可能在美国这个环境里面路会多一些，然后会宽一些这样。
If one works hard, studying in the U.S. can be highly rewarding. Fluent in English, skilled in cross-cultural communication, and with a shining diploma issued by a prestigious U.S. university, one can earn seemingly endless choices and opportunities. They could live and work in any part of the world.
I will definitely go back to China. I major in law study and I would have a better future to go back to China with this major. I major in computer science and I believe I would have more opportunities in the US because the US has a more advanced technological culture. And I believe it will help me to gain valuable knowledge and experiences learning and working here.
While Chinese students come to seek a first-class education, they also contribute something to the university, something that makes their arrival very welcomed.
From my personal point of view, it's been really good because I have a lot of Chinese students in my classes. I teach China and the world, Chinese politics, Chinese film, and it's great to have classes with 3 or 4 or more, sometimes, depends on the size of the class, 10 Chinese students. They bring a new perspective, a different perspective to the class, and they've almost always been very good students, very diligent students. So it's been really good for me personally. And I think it's been good for the United States as well. You have students going in both directions, a lot of American students studying in China. It helps to increase understanding. So I think it's a very positive situation.
Today, with the growing influence of China, economic and cultural ties between China and the outside world have been remarkably strengthened, providing a never-improving background for the overseas Chinese integration into local societies. The cultural diversity has encouraged universities like USC to map out specific plans to absorb more foreign students into their system.
For example, USC has overseas offices in a lot of places in the world, including Shanghai, including Hong Kong, including Taipei, Tokyo, Seoul, Mumbai, Bangalore, Mexico City. So USC is very active since we have the largest number of international students in the United States. And so maybe 8,000 or so. So we make a conscious effort to do that, and we do have the director of student affairs, for example, traveling to China periodically. He's actually asked me to go with him. I wasn't able to do it this past summer to help to meet students and their parents. I've taken part in alumni meetings and recruitment meetings in Hong Kong to try and explain USC to the parents and the students. So USC makes a conscious effort and puts a lot of money into the overseas offices and also recruitment and promotion of USC as a kind of brand in a sense.
Although there is no official support from the government, universities in California have shown a unanimously welcoming environment to students from exotic cultures.
So the University of California, University of Southern California, Caltech, the California Institute of Technology, encourage foreign students and Chinese students to come here, and there's scholarships that exist for them. There's encouragement to make sure that they study in all aspects of our topics here, and we see that as a great strength. The world is stronger when it's increasingly integrated.
The flood of Chinese students entering U.S. universities is not just improving the students' education and increasing international understanding. It is also helping the universities balance their budgets. According to the Commercial Services Division of the U.S. Department of Commerce, education and training ranks 5th on the list of U.S. services for export, bringing in more than $21 billion a year. Chinese students alone contributed at least $4.6 billion. Statistics show in 2011, foreign students alone paid $14.3 billion to the tuition revenues of American universities. The overseas students pay 3 times as much as their in-state counterparts. Andrew Hacker is a professor of political science at Queens College in New York. He explained that every university has 2 what he calls sticker prices, meaning a cheaper tuition for students coming from the state where the college is located, and a second tuition price for foreign and out-of-state students.
The colleges, what the economists call cash flow, the amount of money they have coming in each year in their budget, is dependent on having at least half of the students pay the full sticker price. And there are a lot of prosperous people in Asia, in Europe, and if you admit them, they'll pay the full price. You take the University of Iowa. They have 2 sticker prices. For people who live in Iowa, reside there, they pay about $6,000 a year. But then they have what they call out-of-state tuition for people, let's say, in California who want to study in Iowa. And that's 3 times as much. Well, the foreign students pay the out-of-state tuition, which is quite profitable even for the state colleges. Yeah. Colleges are very expensive places to run. The faculty gets very good salaries. Full professors make well over $100,000 for not too much work. They have lots of administrators. They have swimming pools with 20 lanes, all sorts of things like that. And given this, they need money. So they give priority to the people who will pay the full sticker price. Yeah.
The average expenditure of a Chinese student paying the full cost of the education is $47,000 to $63,000 US per year, or more than $158,000 US for 4 years of study. Zhu Qianyi is a student at Cornell University who is majoring in engineering, also the second most welcome field of study among international students. Zhu says the tuition gap between foreign students and their American schoolmates is too large to ignore.
For the Americans, they have all kinds of subsidies from the government, and if they go to like a state university and they live in the same state, it's going to be cheaper for them. And they also have a lot more opportunities for scholarships and fellowships just because they're citizens. For us, our tuition is like $20K per semester, and since I study financial engineering, which is more like science and engineering oriented, it tends to be cheaper. For the pure finance programs, their tuition is like 1.5 times higher than ours.
According to IIE, funds of international students primarily come from personal or family savings, which take up 63.4% of all financial sources. Coming from a wealthy background means that students don't have to rely solely on scholarships, sponsors, or working income. They feel comfortable about how to spend their money. International students benefit not only the host universities, but also local economies, as students pay for room and board, books and supplies, transportation, health insurance, and support for company and family members.
In the first place, the tuition and living expenses, and also we travel a lot. And as for the rent, it keeps going up bit by bit every year. And also a lot of people would like to buy cars and the luxury products. Those are expensive, but like compared with the prices in China, they're a lot cheaper. For example, like an Audi Q5, here it's only 30K, but in China it's like 300K RMB, which is a lot cheaper. So like whenever I go back, I would buy some stuff for my family just because, it's cheaper. And also a lot of my friends and my family's friends would ask me to buy them a Chanel, a Coach, because it's cheaper. So we've pushed the economy by quite a bit, I think. I've been spending a lot of money on clothes, shoes, and bags. And besides, like now that I'm in New York City, there are so many good restaurants and good theaters. So I've been spending quite a bit on food and art.
However, more and more Chinese students are willing to pay the high costs, and it has aroused concerns. Some people worry that admission for foreign students is becoming so lavish that could harm the interests of local students. But according to LA Councillor Tom LaBonge, no one should be afraid of the competition it brings about.
Well, let me just tell you, earlier this year, I'm down at USC, and who do I run into? Some new students from China. So I welcome them, and I got an email from one of them, and I'm going to give them a tour of Hollywood later on in the semester so they feel part of the community. It's a competitive world, so everyone's got to have their shoes on to really get to the desk in the colleges. USC does recruit foreign students. That's a good thing too, because it's like you said, a global village. So, and some people may not like that, but that's the way of the world now.
Figures from Institute of International Education show the number of Chinese students studying in the U.S. increased by 23.5% in 2011. In Professor Rosen's opinion, this phenomenon is partially due to the rise of China as the world's second largest economy.
People coming from China, I think they feel that an American degree is very helpful to them, and many of them will go back, some will not go back, gives them more options. Yeah, definitely the rising middle class, the fact there's more disposable income, it's a very good investment. It's considered an investment to make, and it's considered a very good investment for, especially with a one-child family. You have one child, you want to make the best future for them, and you make them bilingual, studying that bicultural, bilingual. So whether they go back to back to China, whether they stay in the United States, whether they go to some third country, they can function in various cultures, and that's really what globalization and modernization in the future is all about.
As impressive as foreign students' economic contribution is, some universities insist they only value the quality of students rather than their wealth.
I mean, USC is interested in recruiting the very best students, so wherever they come from, domestically or internationally. Unlike the state schools, like UCLA and Berkeley, for example, which has a certain obligation to students in California, and the tuition rates are cheaper for students in California. Private schools like USC, it doesn't matter if you're from California, from some other state in the United States, or overseas, you pay the same thing. We treat you pretty much the same way. So I don't think we've reached a peak. If we can get more good students from China, that will be fine. We don't have any problem with that.
For Councillor LaBonge, money is not the first thing he considers. He notes what matters most is the profound impact the foreign students have on cultural integration.
And I don't necessarily like to look strictly at dollars. I think it's the human element. You know, when people become friends, it's very important when people have a relationship internationally. I happen to be the president of the Sister City program for Los Angeles, and we have sister cities, 25 of them throughout the world, and I mentioned Guangzhou, but at the same time, it's the relationship that has to be built. And I think that's the integration of people, because that's very important as we go forward.
According to IIE, a strong increase in the number of students from China has been noticed. Either for cultural or economic reasons, this trend has shown no sign of declining anytime soon.
This is CNC World, a new perspective.